Take one. This is my coffee. Take two. Okay, SNUBA.
SNUBA. We had a request from somebody to talk a little bit about SNUBA, the reasons why we do it, and the benefits and the drawbacks of SNUBA. SNUBA is, instead of having a tank on your back, you have a tank on the surface and you use the airline to go down to the bottom, is basically what it is. But I think the reason we do it is because we like to cover a lot of ground, and we have the tank that sits inside our dinghy, and so we just drift with the current. And what are some of the benefits of having SNUBA?
The benefits of SNUBA.
Yeah.
Well, the benefit of SNUBA is if you do it right, you can cover a lot of ground. In places where there's not a lot of current, we use the raft. We won't take the dinghy, which, you know, the dinghy, the little whaler. And we could just swim up one way and swim back the other way. But the benefits with SNUBA is the tank. You can use a much larger tank. You're not carrying the tank. You're not carrying a bunch of junk with you. You don't have this big BCD that's encumbering you. So you can get into tiny holes. If you're looking into small places where you couldn't get with a tank and a jacket and all this stuff. Now, some people have told me that, oh, SNUBA is not for a professional diver. You know, that's simple. SNUBA is not simple. It took us a long time to get used to doing it. It can be difficult sometimes. You obviously have an airline attached to you, and especially with us, we're dragging a 500-pound plus dinghy around with us with a lot of gear in it. So if there's a strong current, sometimes it becomes a drawback. But for the most part, it's really good. And like I said, you can cover a lot of ground because you are attached to a dinghy. You can swim or drift in the current for miles with that airline. You can have multiple tanks linked on the surface. And then when you're done with the dive, you can always jump back up to the dinghy and plow back to the mothership like we do. Or, you know, if you're close to shore, you can just, sometimes we don't bring the mothership, we just go right back to home port with the dinghy.
Yep. Another benefit too is being linked together with the airline, so you won't really lose each other. I know there's been times where we've been underwater where we can only see like 6 feet in front of us, and I know he's at the other end of the line, so if I need him to come over to where I'm at, I just start pulling the line.
Just give that quick little 2 tugs.
Yep.
I know, okay, Adrian needs something.
Yeah.
And we're right now in this depth of water up to about 50 feet. We're using a 70-foot main line, which comes from the tank to our splitter, and then our splitter splits off with the 2 35s, and we basically do that for a reason. Whatever your main line is, your split should be half of that. So if one person has to swim back to the surface for whatever reason, the other person can still be on the bottom at the end of the airline, and you not be yanking them back up to the surface. So that line gets split half and half. So you can make, I have some other lines where I only have 25s, but if you should have to come back to, one of us should have to come back to the surface, we both have to come up. We only use that on really shallow stuff, and at that point I'm probably downgrading to a 50-foot main line, so you don't have all this extra hose just coiled up in the water. But there's a lot of specifics. We have I made another video years ago about how to set up a SNUBA rig using a Guardian raft, which is the other platform that we use, like I said, if there's no current. And Adrian will post that description below.
Yep.
I don't know how you do that, but
yeah,
Adrian will post it
just
up.
magically appears.
If you want to buy any of that stuff you see in the video, I don't personally sell it, but you can buy most of it on Amazon. Age, see if you can post up some of that stuff from Amazon. And if you do buy any of that stuff from Amazon, it does help us out. Most people say I don't benefit from that, but that's a lie. Everybody does.
Yeah.
It does help us out. We only make a few cents for every item, but this is an expensive adventure that we're on, so if you help us out with that, I appreciate it.
Yeah.
I bought some stuff myself, and it wasn't easy. They make you sign into a back way of Amazon, but whatever. But if you could help us out with that, I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Anything else there?
Drawbacks of SNUBA.
Drawbacks of SNUBA. Okay.
Probably the #1 drawback is you don't really know how much air you have left.
Yes.
Because the tank is on the surface and you don't have gauge or whatever, the pressure gauge, you don't have that in front of you. But one of the ways that we do SNUBA is we try to hover like around the 20-foot mark or so. And you don't have to stay at the bottom. You can, you know, go back up, go down, just as long as you still follow the scuba rules of don't ascend too quickly, and if you're deep, make your safety stop, things like that. But I mean, we stay pretty much in those anyways. And when you're at the 20 to 30 foot, you don't really have to do much of a safety stop, and I think we probably hover mostly around that depth anyways. But once we do, once we think we might have the air going too low, we can always pop up and check it real quick. Or one of the things that happens is when it's getting low, we can feel that it's a little bit harder to breathe through the regulators, so we know we don't have much time left, and we could start making our way back up top.
That's a hard feel too. Like,
yeah, it is.
It'll start getting a little harder to breathe, but it doesn't feel extremely harder to breathe. And then all of a sudden it's out.
Yeah. And you're like sucking it into a vacuum.
But at that point you got to realize there's always still a little bit of air left, because that tank is cold from the air expanding. So if you just wait a little minute, you'll probably get another breath. And on the way up, the air is expanding in the line, so you'll get another breath. So the important thing is not to panic.
Yeah, don't panic.
Plan it well.
Yeah, and you have to be really conscious too of how deep you are and how long you're at that depth. If we know we're going to be doing like a deeper dive and like, you know, 50, 60 feet, we do have a dive computer that we'll bring along with us, just so we know how long we're down for. And if we know we're getting close to the end of the tank, we can go up and, you know, stay mid-level for a while, or stay at that 15 to 20 foot mark for a while before we, you know, reach the top. But I think that's probably the #1 drawback. But it is kind of a benefit too, because your airline is so long, so if you're just not paying attention and you start going deeper, you look up and you're like, whoa, my airline is straight up and down. I'm too deep. I need to go, you know, more shallow again.
Keep in mind when you use an airline, if you're in, let's say 30 feet of water, you need double the amount of main line. Just the main line, you need double the amount. So if you're in 30 feet, you know, you need 60 feet of main line, not including your splits, because the splits are just your travel across the bottom. But the main line never goes straight down, it's always on an angle, so you need that extra space. I say double, but that's the minimum. You know, we're diving in like 25, 30 feet of water, and we're using a 70 foot line. And a lot of times the water here is actually shallow because this is the Keys. So I like a 70 footer. If I'm going deep, we have 100 footers, and I have 150 footers. They say 80 foot is about the safe limit, but that was from the compressorized systems, which run a lower pressure. We're using a tank which I can charge the line to a higher pressure, and we're using regular regulators, so I can charge to a higher pressure. So I don't see any problem with going, you know, 100 feet plus, other than the fact that you just have all this extra hose. And commercial divers actually dive this technique umbilical. You know, with that umbilical, they'll be rocking hot water in the line, and they'll also have communication, and we just kind of stripped it down, and this is the best way for us, but it may not work for you. Like I said, when we first started doing SNUBA, there was a lot of learning curves, and if you all have any questions, just comment and I'll try to answer them for you. We've already figured out all the learning curves, so rather than beating yourself up, and if you try it, say this is hard, and this is too hard, and you get frustrated, hit me up in the comments, because I probably have the solution already worked out for you.
Yeah.
Little tips and tricks make a big difference. And once you get past that point, it's really pretty easy. You can stay in the water all day long. Yeah, one of the little tips and tricks too is, I mean, of course you've got to have your weight belt, because you've got to, but your weight doesn't change, but
People sometimes have trouble because I don't know what to do with the regulator because it keeps pulling out of their mouth. Well, we have our weight belt and we've got a little knife on our weight belt, so we just loop the airline and tuck it up under the weight belt and hook it onto the knife. So even if you needed to ditch weight belt, you still could, but you're not going to be having that regular pull out of your mouth like that. I mean, that's one of the little tricks that we learned over time, is just to like tuck it in somewhere so it doesn't, so you're not having to hold it in your mouth the whole time.
Well, this video is going to get long, so
yeah.
If you all want to see, if you want to see some more about this, let us know. We'll make a different video. And like I said, we can also show you the other video, but that was made a while back, and I had some upgrades since then. So.
Yep. All right. So thanks for watching. Give us some comments below, and don't forget to subscribe.
Buy that Amazon stuff.
Yes.